Alrighty, two more examples here about deductive reasoning with the law of detachment. So let's say that we're given these true statements. What can we conclude? So if M is the midpoint of a segment, then it divides the segment into two congruent segments. All right, that's a true statement. And then also we know that M is the midpoint of AB. So we're told that these are true statements, so they're both true. So the first one here, that is our conditional. And we know that the hypothesis is true. M is the midpoint of a segment. We know the hypothesis is true because of the second statement. M is the midpoint of AB. So we know that M is the midpoint of AB. And we know that the hypothesis is true of our conditional. So what can we conclude from it? Then we can conclude that the midpoint, that's it, the midpoint divides the segment into two congruent segments. So we know that the measure of AM is equal to the measure of MB. So AM equals MB. Which again, written as a congruency, AM is congruent to MB. So that's another way of using the law of detachment. Let's look at another one here. Does the following argument illustrate the law of detachment? So you are given that if it is snowing, then the temperature is less than or equal to 32 degrees. All right? The temperature is 20 degrees. So these are both true statements. You conclude it must be snowing. So I want you to think about that. Does this illustrate the law of detachment? Okay. You're given a conditional right here, and we know that the conclusion is true. We do not know that the hypothesis is true. We do not know that it is snowing. All we know is that the temperature is 20 degrees, which meets the conclusion. So you can't go the other way with the law of detachment. You can't say, oh, well, because the conclusion is true, then the hypothesis must be true. It doesn't work that way. Just because it's 20 degrees outside does not mean that it has to be snowing. So again, those are just two more examples in reasoning with the law of detachment.